All right, we are live. Okay, welcome everyone to Lambda School's mini bootcamp, web fundamentals. So to start out, we'll be anyway, introducing ourselves. You've seen us talking on Slack, and yeah, I'll go first. So my name is Ben Nelson. I am the one of the co-founders and the CTO of Lambda School. I'm a professional software engineer, and I love to teach. And that's what brought me into this. So actually that doesn't help to watch our live stream. So there's a little bit of a delay.
Cool. Yeah,
Austin.
And I am Austin. I am the CEO of Lambda School. We just wanted to welcome you out really quickly to this free mini bootcamp. Explain a tiny bit about what's going on and some of the logistics, just who Lambda School is, why this is happening, what's going on. So Lambda School is a computer science academy that is entirely online. So we do have a physical location. We're out here in Pleasanton, California, but students generally don't come here. Our instructors are all over the place, and you can attend Lambda School from anywhere. So I'm Austin. I'm the CEO. This is Ben, the CTO. We have a team of just over 20 people. And yeah, the full Computer Science Academy goes quite a bit deeper than what you're probably used to with code bootcamps. So we don't only cover web development, we cover all aspects of software engineering, computer architecture, computer science, stuff that every engineer really should know, but that normal boot camps can't afford to teach you. So yeah, that's Lambda School. We start a new class every month. Once we get started in the mini boot camp, we'll drop a link in case any of you want to apply. It is a full-time commitment. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. We're online all day except for 1 hour for lunch. And yeah, the best thing that we're really, really excited about now about Lambda School is it is completely free until A, you have a job that is paying you over $50,000 per year, and B, that job is in software engineering. So if Lambda School doesn't work out for you, then you never pay anything. And we wanted to thank our investors for making that happen. Those include Y Combinator, Paul Buchheit, who created Gmail, and a bunch of other people from Ashton Kutcher to Joe Montana. And if you're interested, if you like this teaching style, this is a little bit different because we have so many people. We can't have everybody in one little room talking to each other like normally Lambda School is. But we'd love to have you. And we take very seriously the people that do the mini bootcamp because that means A, they are interested in software development, B, they're committed, and we can see how you do your work. So with that, I'm going to run into the other room. Ben will talk through some of the logistics of the mini bootcamp that we're going through, how to use Slack, how to use YouTube the way we want you to use it, how to use the questions channel. And we'll go from there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you around.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Yeah, so we're going to be starting from about as absolute zero as possible with this mini boot camp. So for some of you that are coming into this a little more experienced, I saw some people mention that they have CS degrees. Some of the parts may be a little slower, but you can always fast forward the recording if you go and watch it a little bit later. But the point is, we want to make this as accessible as possible and cover the fundamentals and be able to help people get up to speed on this stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's just like any other skill. The more hours that you put into it, the better you'll get. Once you reach a certain level, once you get above a certain bar, then then you can be compensated for your time. So it's a fun thing to learn. It's like problem solving, like Legos professionally, but or Rube Goldberg machines, one of the two. But it's a lot of fun. So you've all joined Slack. So Slack is it's how we handle the communication within our school. So, for the live, for this mini boot camp, you're all in there, and it's, these big channels, got a lot of people going through there. in our full-time course, we also use Slack, and we can use it to kind of take the place of like classrooms. It's kind of like little classrooms that you can go into, and we do Zoom, we do like lots of live video lectures and things during the day. For this, again, just because there's a lot of people, we'll be using YouTube for all of our streaming over the next 2 weeks. So again, as a review, this course is, this mini boot camp that we're doing. This is this week, and next week we are covering the fundamentals of programming in general, but also the fundamentals of like the websites, like building web pages, or the beginning of like web applications, which are more sophisticated websites. So think like Amazon or Facebook or Twitter, as opposed to just static website for the bakery or the Thai restaurant down the street. So, so Slack, again, is where we're going to do all the communications. So if you have questions, during the call, then you can post your questions in the questions channel. So if you kind of play around with it, you'll find a channel called questions that you can join. If you click on the word channels on the left panel, there's like some different panels on the page, and you click on channels, then you can go in and join it, and join the questions channel. And then you can ask your questions in there. Austin, and we'll have some TAs that'll be watching it. They'll see the questions that you ask. Some of them Austin will push my way, and then I'll address them in the lecture. Others they'll just answer off to the side. Sometimes it'll be a good segue for me to take the streaming time to answer a question. Other times, we'll skip over the question just because it would maybe create too jarring of a segue. So, anyway, so ask your questions in there. So we won't actually be having you come on and speak live, just because then that takes a lot of time, and it makes it a little more challenging as an instructor to control the flow of the lesson. So, we'll just ask questions in there, and then yeah, we'll be going over it. So, saw some people ask about hiring stats. So our first class graduated last Friday, actually, just a couple days ago. We have a student who we've had 2 of our students get jobs so far. Things are looking good. So it's been pretty exciting. So being able to see some people go from never making much more than minimum wage to getting some really good job offers. So again, like something to the people ask about our school and how it compares to other boot camps. One of the main things is that we focus a lot on CS fundamentals. We go beyond just the web development surface, but get into mobile app development, server-side development, databases, and all that stuff. So anyway, if you're interested in that, you can go and apply. We have a few slots left for February, but then we start a new class every month. So with that being said, now we're going to dive in and talk about web development. So I'm going to post our homework assignment in just a moment. Okay. All right, I'm going to do a screen share, and then we'll go over this. All right. Okay, so here, this website that I'm at is called github.com. So github.com it's a website where you can store your code for free. And it has some other tools built into it that we'll talk about later. But this folder, we call it a repository. So in the Git language, like in the Git speak, a folder will refer to it as a repo. And so a repo is and I'll post this in general in a few different places, and people can share that around. But so this right here has all of the different assignment folders. So it's like one big folder that has a bunch of different files and folders inside of it that cover the different assignments that we'll be going over the next 2 weeks. So, so at a high level, we're going to start out with Git, which is version control. I'll explain what all of that means. We'll go over that in depth today. But today we are focusing on Git and GitHub version control. This is a super, super critical skill that is absolutely necessary for every software engineer to use. If a company isn't using Git or an equivalent type of a tool, then it's a huge like red flag for how their tech stack is managed. Every modern application needs an effective way to manage version control, and that's something that we'll talk about that more in depth in a little bit. So the rest of this week will be devoted to JavaScript and the fundamentals of programming. So variables, version control, functions, data structures, stuff to do with control flow, iteration, all of that good stuff. So we cover the fundamentals of coding in a programming language. JavaScript is a fantastic first language to start with because it's a little bit easier than other programming languages to begin with. Like C++ is a little harder to write, but it's faster. It's closer to the machine. C++ is what's used for AAA video games and video game engines. But it's harder to write and it's more challenging, and it has a more difficult barrier to entry. JavaScript is still optimized and very fast, but it sits on top of C++. It's actually there's actually C++ code that runs JavaScript, and so they have different purposes. And so JavaScript is the language that's used for building websites. In addition to HTML and CSS, which we'll talk about. But JavaScript is the main language of the web, but it can also be used for servers. It can be used for mobile development. So for writing like iOS apps, like Apple apps for your iPhone or Android apps. It can also be used for making desktop applications. So like on your computer right now, the Slack app that you're using, or your web browser like Chrome. JavaScript can be used to develop different tools like that as well. So JavaScript is it's a fantastic multi-purpose language that's approachable, easier to learn, and through that you can build on pretty much any platform. It's also the most in-demand programming language. JavaScript is there are more job openings for positions that require JavaScript than any other programming language. So it's a fantastic place to start, and it leads to a lot of great job opportunities. After that, we dive into HTML, CSS, some more advanced stuff with CSS, and then some stuff to do with web pages and the DOM and how it all links together. And we'll talk all about that later on in the week, or next week. So these first 4 lessons will be this week. 5, 6, 7, 8 will be next week. So again, we're starting with Git version control, and then we're going to talk about JavaScript for the rest of the week, and then next week we'll finish up with some more advanced JavaScript topics, and then HTML, CSS, and more of the visual representation. So fun stuff. This is also the everything that we're covering in this 2-week course is actually the pre-course requirements for our main course. And so we're teaching this just as a live free service to anyone who wants to come in and learn the fundamentals. But it also doubles up as the work that we require our students to do prior to them being able to start on day one. So if you work through this stuff by completing all 8 of these assignments, you would be at the level necessary to be able to start in our class on day one. So this is the stuff that we have all of our students work through before they begin. So it doubles up as that, but yeah, it's just we've decided to open this up, make it free and open, and teach it to all the people out there that are trying to learn on your own and trying to change, and it's hard to do it through MOOCs and pre-recorded content. Okay, so some people are asking about like what version of JavaScript we'll be doing ES6. People are asking about Visual Studio or what like editors to use. We'll be talking tomorrow all about editors, and when we get into JavaScript, and I'll explain to you what an editor is, how to download one, how to use it, how to open up and modify files. So we're going to start very basic, and then ramp up to a fairly advanced level by the end of this. So we'll be talking all about editors and stuff like that tomorrow. So don't worry about that too much tonight. So today it's all about GitHub, using the terminal in the computer, the command line, being able to navigate around and do some stuff like that. So again, when you're working on these assignments, feel free to work in groups. You can work with other people, we want it to be collaborative. Ask questions here on Slack. If this community environment. It's an ideal environment to learn in, and you can have support from other people who are out there, trying to learn, and so it's a lot of fun. We've done this a couple times. It's been about 6 months though. It's a lot of fun. It's fun because this type of a thing draws together a lot of people that are really self-motivated, and so we get a lot of really hard workers and great people that show up. Okay, so. All right, so for this first assignment, Git for today. Okay, so what is Git? So if you imagine that you're in school and you and 20 other people are assigned to write a 100-page essay together. And so you're all writing this 100-page essay, and there's 20 people, you're all working on it. So you're all working it on your computers. You all have your own different version of it. And then, how do you keep it in sync? What if one of you needs to go back and edit something on the first page, but then 5 other people have edited that same paragraph? And so which person's version is the correct one? Everyone's their versions are all different, and you have to have a very, very structured process to keep the document in sync between all 20 people. Even with Google Docs, trying to have 20 people in there writing on the same file at the same time can get really chaotic, because maybe someone goes in to work on a paragraph and the internet cuts out and someone else is modifying the same page, and it all gets thrown off. And you can see that it would become this big mess if you had 100 files and there's 20 people all working on them, and they'd step on each other's toes and they'd make a big mess. So that's where version control came in, because computer programs they're a bunch of files. They're a bunch of text files, and code is just text in a file, and not too different from like a Word document with just a bunch of text in it. And so you have like an engineering team where like at my last company, we had about 30 software engineers, and we were all working on a code base that had a couple thousand files in it, and and we're all in there, and we're supposed to work in a collaborative way on these 1,000 files. And you have to make sure that you're not stepping on each other's toes. You have to make sure that you're not accidentally deleting each other's work or messing things up. And so that's what Git is. Git is a version control tool that allows large groups of people to work on the same files in a collaborative manner without stepping on each other's toes and making a mess of things. So Git is a tool that we use on our computer. We use it to allow to facilitate teamwork across across large teams on the same code base. So again, a code base refers to just the folder with all your files of code in it. That's Git. So GitHub is a website that is a place where you can store your Git folders, your Git repos. So all of your code that you're using Git with to handle the version control, you can store it up on GitHub. So the first thing you're going to do tonight is you need to create a GitHub account. So it's free, totally free. You can come in here and use our code and everything and pull it down and everything. That's all free. GitHub is very, very widely used. Many companies use GitHub. Most companies use Git, and many of those companies use GitHub. So Our assignment is hosted on GitHub for future projects. If you see someone asking about Bitbucket. So our stuff is hosted on GitHub, but you can use Bitbucket for other projects or things like that. But yeah, Bitbucket is another thing that's like GitHub. It's a company that has a website where you can go in and save your code, and it makes it easier to use Git across a remotely distributed team like we are. Okay. All right. So again, we'll walk you through the fundamentals of Git, some of the basic commands. A lot of it right now, I'm just giving you a very high level overview, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty in a little bit. We're going to talk about terminal commands, how to work through the basics of how to control the computer without using your mouse, essentially. Let's see. Austin said, yes, you need to use Bitbucket. I think he meant, yes, you need to use GitHub. So yeah, he meant to say GitHub. Yeah, I'll talk about forking and cloning and basic Git commands. And so your assignment today is you're going to do a thing called a clone for this repo, which is it's kind of like a download. It's similar to the word, the meaning is very similar to download. So it's like you're going to download this folder, you're going to add a file to it, and then you're going to submit what's called a pull request, and we'll walk through that whole flow. So all right, so again, today is more about just getting used to the environment. It's more about getting used to a lot of these different tools that are available, because these can be, kind of intimidating at first. And then later in this week is when we're going to dive into a lot of the specifics of programming. So, all right, okay, so with Git, so we have our repo here. So again, pre-course, this is called a repository, a repo, and so we're going to clone it. And so what cloning does, cloning is going to download it. So essentially, I copy this URL, and actually, no, I'm going to back up a second. I'm going to talk about the terminal. Okay, so it's okay. Don't worry about following along during these. Don't follow along during our streams. You can go back and review things and rewatch things because it will all be like the archive will be available and recorded. So sorry, it's kind of a pain to get this zoomed up so it's a little bigger and easier to read. Okay, all right. So this thing that I just opened up is called the terminal. So this is on Mac. It's the same on Linux. If you were on Windows, there is a tool that you're going to install. There's a tool that you are going to install that will guide you through this process. Someone's asking about forking first. Yes, you are going to fork before you clone, but we'll go over that in a little bit. So right now, just watch. But this is called the terminal. You can see it up here, TERMINAL terminal. This essentially is a way for me to, I'm going to get up to the very top real quick. Okay, so ignore that last little bit. Okay, so this is essentially a way for me to control the computer without actually using like my mouse. And so, operating systems, one of the cool things about them now is you can use a mouse, you can go and click around. Back in the day, it was just commands that you typed in and it was text-based. And so that you can still interact with the computer in that way. And there's some very powerful things you can do from inside the terminal that are difficult to achieve with a mouse, and it's faster. There's things that you can do that are faster workflow-wise. So terminal, we're going to open this up, and there's a couple different commands that we can type in here. And essentially, that with the terminal, it allows me to navigate around and look at all of the files and folders on my computer. And I can move into other folders, and I can look at files. I can make new files. I can delete them. I can even edit them and do all of my code editing through the terminal without using an editor. That's something that we talk more about in our full-time course. But and so if I type in this command here, ls, and ls shows me all of the contents of the current folder that I'm in. So right now I'm in the root folder of my application or my computer. And so the root folder means like the base folder. So I'm in the root folder, and we can see there's all these other folders in here. So applications, desktop. So this is everything that's on my desktop, documents, downloads, Lambda school, library, movies, music, pictures. These are all different folders, apps. So so these are all the different contents. And so if I want, I can now navigate into these different folders and view the contents inside of them. So I'm going to navigate into the folder called Lambda School and look and see what's inside of that folder. So I'm going to type in cd space. CD stands for change directory. And then I'm going to type in the word Lambda School, hit tab to autocomplete, and then hit enter. All right, so now here I can see it says I'm inside of the Lambda School folder. And I can type in ls, and here's all these folders and files that I've created and downloaded over the last year. So and so this is stuff that I've all created, and so I'm able to navigate around inside of my computer. And so dir is what you use on Windows. You don't use ls, but there's a tool that you're going to download, and it's in the homework that makes it so all these commands will be the same on Windows, and so you'll be able to use these same commands. By default, the commands are different on Windows, and the way you interact with it is a little bit different. But there's instructions in the homework for what you'll need to download and what you'll need to do. So again, I can view all the contents in here. So I'm going to just pull this up real quick. I have a list of the different commands. So we have ls, and this is all listed inside of the homework README, so you can come back and review this as well. So you have ls that views the contents of the current folder we're in. cd, and then the folder name allows us to navigate into the next folder. We can also make folders. So I'm going to come back in here. So I'm going to type in the command mkdir, so make directory, and then I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this, my new folder. Okay. So now I press ls, and you see the last time I did ls, it just showed all these folders, but then I made a new folder, typed ls again, and we see here is the new folder that I created. So it created it within this folder. Now I can type in cd, my new folder, and I can navigate into it. So now I am inside of that new folder. If I type in ls and hit enter, nothing prints because there's nothing in this. There's nothing in this folder right now. So again, we come down. All right, so ls, cd, make directory. All right, now the next command is touch. So touch creates a file. So I'm going to say touch, and then I'm going to call this file.txt. So file.text. That'd be a text file. Well, I'll call it JS for JavaScript. File.js. So now I type in ls, and now we see there's a file.js file that was created inside of this folder. And so then I could go in and I could edit this file and write some JavaScript code in it. And that's how we're going to, so this is how you can create files and navigate around and do some different things with it. So I can also delete the file using rm. So rm space file name. So I created file.js. Let's create another file. So let's do touch test.txt. So a text file, hit ls. All right, now we have file.js in there. We have test.txt. Let's delete the text file now. So you go rm for remove, test.txt, hit enter. And now we type in ls, and it's gone. And then remember, or not remember, but this does not delete to, this does not move to like the recycling bin or the garbage can, like the trash can or whatever on your operating system. This totally deletes it. The file is gone 100% forever. So when I do rm test.txt, that file's gone forever. It was blank, and it's not a big deal, but you just got to remember that when you remove these files, they're gone forever. Git allows us to have kind of a history. So if you accidentally delete a file, you can go back and bring it back. And we'll talk about that more later. But so these are just some of the basic commands for how to navigate around in the file system, how to create, how to create files, how to delete files. So again, touch is how you create a file. So touch, and then file name is how you create a file. mkdir followed by a name creates a folder with that name. ls is how you see the contents in a folder. cd is how you go into a folder. If I wanted to go back a folder, so go up a level, I do cd space ... And that takes me up a level. So now I type in ls, and I'm back in the folder that has the my new folder in it. So now I can go back into it, my new folder, type ls, and there's the file. So again, it's something you just want to play around with, like open up terminal and then just start navigating around your file system and create files and folders and just move around. And you want to become very familiar with the terminal, the command line. There's a this is just scratching the surface. And there's a lot of very powerful, very complex things you can do with it that are absolutely critical to becoming a software engineer. So this is just kind of your first dive into that. So it's kind of cool, like getting in here. It's like being able to, like, you've probably seen this like in movies and stuff. And anyway, so it's kind of fun to just dive in and actually start messing around with some of these base commands behind the behind the GUI, or the graphical user interface. So okay, so these are some of the basic commands, terminal commands. I'm now going to go a little bit faster with using those commands, and I'm going to talk more about Git and GitHub and how we get the code onto our computer. So so we have this homework assignment, pre-course, this folder that has, so pre-course is the repo that has 8 different folders in it for the 8 different assignments we're going to do over the next 8 classes. And so we need to now get this from the cloud onto your computer. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to make your account. Let's see. Yeah, you have to make a. You have to make your account, and then let's see. I'm gonna try to. I want to see if I can draw something real quick. Usually we use Zoom, and so I'm used to being able to just sketch. Let's see, 2 seconds. Okay, let me pull up. All right, Sketchpad. We'll use this. This will work great. Okay. All right, so, all right, and then you guys are gonna get to see all of my beautiful, beautiful drawings. Okay, so this right here is our repo up in the cloud. The cloud just means it's sitting on a server on a computer in a data center somewhere. So those files, those GitHub files, the pre-course repo that you have to get on your computer, they're sitting on a computer in a data center somewhere that GitHub is either owns or they're renting space from. It's probably an AWS, something that Amazon owns or Google, but so have these big data centers with these giant computers that don't have monitors. They're just, like if you have a desktop computer and you think of like the big box that has all the other components in it, it's kind of like a big room that's filled with thousands of those. We talk about this in depth in our course. We go over computer architecture and talk about the hardware and get into the fundamentals of networking and all this stuff. So I'm talking about this at a very, very, very high level. But these files, this folder is sitting on a computer, somewhere else on the other side of the world. You have to get it down onto your computer. And so the first thing we're going to do is, this is under the LS, the Lambda school account. This is our version of it. And then under your account, so you're going to create an account, and then you're going to do this thing called a fork. And what a fork does, a fork is going to make a copy of our repo under your account. So it's going to copy it. Okay, so it's going to go through, copy all the files and folders and put it under your account. Okay, so it's separate. So any changes that get made to it they're not going to change the original version. So then you're going to fork it, then you have a version, and now you have to get it down onto your computer. Okay, so then we're going to do a thing called a clone. And let me write this in here. This is a fork. This is a fork, and then you're going to clone it. Okay, so a clone is like a download, but a clone essentially means you're downloading it onto your computer, but it's going to have Git built into the repo, the folder, the version tracking. So we're going to clone it, and then we're going to make some changes to it, and then you're going to do what's called a push. You're going to push your changes back up, and then you're going to submit what's called a pull request, where you're making a request back to the original version saying, hey, I have version 2. I made some changes. I want you to take my changes and merge them in with version 1 that you have. We're not going to actually merge your changes in, but you're going to submit a pull request because this is a very common workflow. And then this makes it very easy for us to go on because we can look at your pull request. So PR for pull request. And then this right here is going to be a push. So push, and we can see your pull requests. We can see the changes you've made to our original version. So we can look at your code and we can see it very clearly what the different changes are that you made. And so, so we can view that. And so if you apply to our course to come in attend a full time, then we'll actually go in and look through all your pull requests and make sure that you're up to speed before you start. And that's how we do that. But this is a very common workflow at a lot of companies. They do something similar to this where, you fork it, clone it, push like, this type of a workflow. So you'd have your 20 employees that are all forking it. They all have their own different forks. So that's a very, very common workflow. So, over here, because then I can be down here. This is me, the teacher. And if I need to make a change to the assignment, I'm pushing my changes up, and keeping myself in sync. But then your changes aren't directly affecting it because you guys don't have ownership of the repository. So I have admin access, so I can read and write to it and change it. But then you guys would have to go through this pull request process to get changes accepted and merged. So so the fork is still up in the cloud. It's still on one of those server boxes in a data center somewhere. The clone is on your machine locally. Okay. All right. And then and I'm going to talk you through these things called commits. Down here we'll talk about adding files or staging them for a commit, and then we're going to talk about commits, which are kind of like a hard save. It'd be kind of like if you're editing a Word document and you had a history of every time you'd saved the file. That's kind of like what Git provides. It's the ability to go back at these. It allows you to make like a hard save that you can revert back to if you need to in an emergency. So like what will often happen, and you don't see this a lot, but at companies, like if something breaks all of a sudden and their service goes down, they will revert back to a previous save that they had, thanks to Git. They had a history of this thanks to Git. And so they revert back to a working state of their program and then run that. So if Amazon goes down, or something, like they'll spot it super fast, revert back to a previous working version, get it up, and this all happens super, super fast. And then they go in there and then they'll figure out what broke it, what bugs happened and how they can prevent that going forward. And so you see this kind of stuff happen a lot. So I'm going to walk you guys through this now. I'm like explaining this high level, and now I'm going to walk through exactly how to do this. And this is the flow that we use with all of our assignments throughout our full course. And then Git and GitHub is what we're going to be using for all the homework in this mini bootcamp. And so if you want to be a software developer, if you want to be a software engineer, you have to become very, very comfortable in Git. Git and GitHub. This is something that's very, fundamental to it all. So anyway, and there's a lot more. This is the basics of it. There's a lot of like advanced workflows and tools and things that are available, a whole ecosystem of things you can do. But these are the basics. This is how we get the assignment. And, be thinking like basics. This seems really advanced. Like it's one of those things where you just have to work through this, over and over again. So someone's asking about Replid. So we're actually going to be moving away from Replid going forward. Replid has some issues handling the volume of students that we process with pre-course work, and so they have some issues at the moment, and they're not totally suited for what we need it to do. So we're going to be actually switching to this type of a workflow, but back to it. This is actually how it used to be, and then we moved to Replid, and now we're moving back. But okay, so let's walk through this again. So here we see we're at Lambda School /precourse, and you can look at the URL too. So we have Lambda School /precourse. Okay, so now I'm going to fork it. Drink. All right, so I click this fork button. So right up here we have this fork button. I click that. You fork it, and oops, I already forked it. Let me go delete my fork real quick. Few seconds. Let me go through here and clean this up. I walked through this workflow earlier just to make sure everything was good to go for our lesson, and I gotta go delete it real quick. Okay, all right. Okay, so now I'm going to go click the fork button. So click the fork button, and now I'm going to copy it over to my account. So Sun Jiaming, that's my GitHub username. So I'm going to copy it over, or fork it over. So you see it's doing like a little like copy machine, animation, because it's essentially copying them over. And so now I look up in the top left, and it has my GitHub username, and then it has my it has the name of the folder. And so it's my version of the folder forked from Lambda School. So my copy of the repo, and it came from the Lambda School version. So it remembers where it came from, but it is a copy. Yeah. For those of you that are wondering, Sun Jiaming is Mandarin. Some people were asking me about that. I lived in Taiwan for a few years and speak Mandarin Chinese. So that's why my username on GitHub and my username on Slack is Sun Jiaming as well. All right. I noticed we have some Taiwanese people that sign up for this class too. So, Huaning. All right. Okay, so we forked it over. So this is our version over up in the cloud now. So we go back to our little diagram. So we started here, we forked it. Okay, now it's up here. So now I need to clone it to get it down onto my computer. So for cloning, and we'll have some instructions for how to download Git. If you're on Mac or Linux, depending on the environment, you already have it. If you're on Windows, you'll need to get it. But if you download the tool that we recommend, it'll get packaged in there automatically. Anyway, so we'll cover that. All right, but right in here, so I'm in it's my new folder. I'm still in that same folder. So I'm going to navigate out of that. And so now I'm in here inside of the Lambda School folder. And our voice is cracking. I've been talking all day. Okay, so now I'm going to do, I'm going to clone the repository down to my computer. So the command that I type is git. So the first command I type is git. Then that's going to access the Git application that's on my computer, the Git program. And then I'm going to type in the word clone space. And so I'm telling Git, all right, I want to clone this repository, and then I paste it in. So Command V or Control V, that's how you paste. I paste in the URL for the Git one. So for the repository, and it has to say .git on the end, and so you have to get it from this green button right here. Okay, don't just grab it from up in here in the address bar. That won't work. You have to come from this green button. So then I hit enter, and oh, I already it's already in here. So let me rm-rf. That's right here. Deletes a folder. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna do git clone. So git clone. Paste in the URL, hit enter. All right, so then what this does, in the folder that I'm in, so I'm in Lambda School, the Lambda School folder, and then what it's going to do in here is it's going to create another folder called pre-course. This will match the repository name. So it creates another folder called pre-course, and it downloads all the files into it. So now if I hit ls, we see that there is now a folder in here called pre-course. And I'm going to navigate into that. Hit ls, and here we are. I'm inside of this folder. And this is all the stuff from up on GitHub. So like the README, Lesson 8, Lesson 1, Lesson 1-Git, all of this stuff is from up in here. This was all downloaded onto my computer, so now I'm inside of it. So there's the repo. So that was the clone, git clone. It downloaded the folder, and then I navigated into the folder. So now I'm inside of that folder, and now I can type in git status, and it shows me the status of the folder. It says it's up to date. Everything is up to date with where it came from. We're good to go. We're going to make a change, and this is your homework assignment for tonight. And tonight's homework assignment is basically just like, getting getting everything all kind of situated and getting your environment up and good to go. So it's a little, there's a lot of moving parts here that can be tricky on different people's computers. Yeah. So yeah, this is case sensitive. So CD, I'm navigating into the folder. All right. So now I'm in there, ls. All right. So I have this README. All right. If you read the instructions, so as you go through this README file in lesson1-git, it's going to guide you through the instructions. So it's going to say, get a GitHub account, install git bash command terminal, git bash command terminal if you're on Windows. And it talks you through some of the different, things that you have to do here. And then it guides you through the different steps. It reviews the stuff we've talked about. And then here under exercise, this is the homework exercise for tonight. So, we create a new folder, Lambda School. We're going to clone down, or we're going to fork and then clone the Lambda School repo. And it gives you the instructions on how to do that. And then now we're going to create a new file in here. So I'm going to go touch new file .js. And the way I did it diverged a little bit differently from the homework. They're having you create the file from the root of Lambda School instead of from inside of the lesson1-git folder. I'm inside of the lesson1-git folder, so I just did touch new file.js instead of touch the folder new file.js. Okay, so I created a new file in here. All right. So now I've created a new file, so I've changed it. So now this stuff is different from the original version that I forked. So at this point, if we were to go back to our little diagram, this is version 1, and then we cloned it, and we're at version 1, clone down version 1, and then I got my stylus, and then what we did is we just changed it to version 2, because our version's different, and so it's out of sync now. And so if I type git status, it's going to say untracked file, new file.js. So what that means is that we created a new file that Git is not tracking yet. And so now I'm going to type in git add, and then new file.js. And what git add does, and I can also do git add -- all. But what git add does, git add allows me to select the files that I want to do this hard save on. And this hard save is called a commit. So I'm going to select all the files. So now we see, all right, so new file.js has been modified and it's ready to be committed. And then now I'm going to do a commit. So I'm going to type in git space commit space -m space. And so again, the commit is doing like a hard save, and now I'm going to type a little message, so that way I, when I'm reading through the list of all the saves, I know what each one refers to. So I'm going to say added new file.js. Different companies will have you use it and have you change the tense on the way that you write it. Right now, we're just doing past tense. That's fine. But git commit -m added new file.js, and I have to have an opening quote and a closing quote, double quotes. Then I hit enter. Okay, so now, so git commit, so master, this is the commit hash, added new file.js. And then the committer is Sunjiaming, this computer. There's some config message stuff we can ignore. But now if I type in git status, it says git status on branch master says your branch is ahead of origin master by 1 commit. Origin master is this one up here in the cloud. So it's saying, all right, we're at version 2. Our cloud version is at version 1. So we need to push our changes back up. And again, this stuff, like, it's not going to come to you 100% tonight, and that's totally fine. Just, do your best at it. Hang in there. It's something that you will repeat this process. If you come into our course, you will repeat this process pretty much every single day for 6 months, and it will become very, very natural, and you'll get it over time. So again, just hang in there. This might just be, you blindly following a list of instructions in the repo, and that's totally fine. This is some pretty tricky stuff to start with. And when we get into the JavaScript stuff tomorrow, that'll be, different change of pace. It'll be fun. This is fun too. All right, so now, so we have the changes locally. We're version 2 locally, and now we need to push up those changes up to the cloud. So we're going to do git push origin master. So git push origin master. And let me actually double check something real quick. Actually, git push. So let's just do git push. Ignore the origin master part. Just do git push. And then what this is going to do is this is going to upload our changes. So now, so if I roll up to the top of this, we'll see inside of this folder, lesson 1 git, there's only a README. Under my version, there's only a README. As soon as I refresh, we're going to see a new file.js. And we see that it was added 2 minutes ago. That was 2 minutes ago is when I made the commit. So it's been added to my version. My version is now out of sync from the Lambda school version. So this one has now been changed to version 2. Okay. So my local is at version 2. My forked copy up on GitHub is at version 2, but the Lambda school one's at version 1. And your company, maybe you just fixed a bug, and that's what this code was. So now you need to merge it back into the original. So you'll submit a oh yeah, so permission denied to Lambda school pre-course Git. That's because you cloned from our repository. You need to fork it before you clone it, and then clone from your fork. Okay, so we're going to submit the pull request now. All right, so we're going to go to, we'll go back to the root of the folder, and then it says new pull request. So I click that. You can ignore all this stuff up here. Don't worry about that. Just click create pull request, add a new file.js, create pull request. And there we go. And then this is the pull request. And now if I go and look at the files changed, we see that it added a new file. There's nothing in it, but it added a new file. There's one new commit in my version that's not in the original version. Now we're at Lambda School's pre-course repository. I can click on this button right here for pull requests. I see every time I click on it, there's new pull requests. I see that people are submitting them as I'm doing this, and so that's fine if you're able to keep up. That's great. If you're not able to keep up and this is totally new, don't worry about it. That's not a big deal. So we come in here and I can see, all right, here's cause 097. I can click on it, new file added. I can see the changes that you submitted, and it's all on here. And so tomorrow, as we go through and write some JavaScript, those changes will be updated and added to your pull request. And so then we'll be able to come on here and look at it under your username and see all the code that you've written. So and it's all on here. It's all public. Everything you put on GitHub is public. So never put anything private or sensitive up on GitHub, unless you're paying for a private version and you make the repository private. But yeah, so this is the assignment for today. There's 22 now. So it looks like 22 people have submitted pull requests. So so we're just going to work. So tonight, again, your homework is just to work through this. Just follow the instructions inside of this folder. We'll be watching the help channels for a little while. We do go to sleep and eat dinner and all that stuff. So, be patient. We'll do our best. There's a lot of people in here, but in our normal course, in our full course, the class sizes are, smaller, and we have a much smaller student-teacher ratio. We have a lot of TAs, graduate students that stick around and that we hire to help and come in and answer questions and things like that. So it's anyway, yeah. So so our full-time class. One of the cool things about it is we worked backwards from our hiring partners. So we have over 75 hiring partners. Including companies like Slack and IBM and U.S. Air Force and some different companies that are looking to hire our people. And our graduates can work anywhere, but there are some companies specifically seeking us out. And we work with these companies to refine our curriculum to make sure that we're teaching the things that they want to know, that they need their engineers to know. And so So one of the cool things about that is we focus a lot on computer science fundamentals. So we teach operating systems, we teach C, we teach computer architecture, data structures, and algorithms. These things that no other coding bootcamp really teaches. Definitely not C and operating systems and lower level CS fundamentals. And so it's so we focus on that pretty heavily. And because we're 6 months long, essentially we're teaching 3 times the amount of curriculum. Most boot camps are 3 months long, and so they break it out into like 6 weeks of instruction and then 6 weeks of a capstone project. With us, we're able to go 18 weeks of instruction with 6 weeks of capstone project, and so we're able to cover 3 times the amount of information. And the number of hours actually come out to being about 75% of the hours that you'd spend in a computer science program at a university. This is taking out electives, but the core computer science track at a typical university, and it varies by university, but so we're able to get about 75% of the hours in over that 6-month period. So it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of time, but it's our students learn a tremendous amount. So because we've been able to have a lot of success so far, been able to get some great investors, and because of that, we've been able to hire amazing instructors. So one of them worked for the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Another one worked for Blizzard, the gaming company. Another one worked for Google. We had a guy who we stole him away for he was going to be a professor at Oregon State. And so there's a lot of a guy from Apple. So a very, very advanced like pedigree from our instructors. And so these guys are guys and girls are amazing, amazing software engineers. They really know their stuff. So and it's totally free. We started out as a paid upfront boot camp, but we wanted to make this more accessible. We want to our vision is to create a future where student debt is no longer a thing, where people aren't having to go into debt, tens of thousands, if not over $100,000, for degrees that don't necessarily give them a job. And so with us, you guys don't pay us back unless you're in a really good job making money, actually pulling in a good salary. And so, so it's free for our students until they get a job making about $50,000 a year. Once you're making $50,000 a year or more, then you pay back 17% of your salary for 2 years. If you lose your job because you get, you get in a car accident or something, or you get laid off from your company, or who knows what happens, and you lose your job, then your payments pause, they stop. So it's not like student loan debt in that regard, where it's you get shackled down with this debt and this burden that sticks with you forever. We've designed it to be as forgiving as possible, because we believe that this is how the future of education should be. And we believe that this is the future of education, and this is what the model is going to look like going forward. So it's a lot of fun. Our students are doing great. Again, our first class just graduated. Already they're getting jobs. We had one guy who had never made more than $15 an hour in his life. Didn't have any significant computer science experience coming into this, didn't have a college degree, got a job, a senior level position, making a lot of money, out, back east. And, and another guy who grew up picking watermelons, and no one in his family had finished more than ninth grade. No one had finished more than ninth grade, and he just got a job. Making a great salary. And so it's those are some anecdotes, but our first class, they just barely graduated, so they have a period of time in front of them to do their job search. But
so far about a fourth of the first class have job offers, and they graduated 3 days ago. So we're pretty confident that we'll hit 100% of the first graduating class.
Yeah.
Let me see. What are some of the questions here?
So did 100% of our class graduate? We did not have 100% of the class graduate. It's hard, with a 6-month-long online course, and it's advanced, and we move pretty fast, and it's a lot of material. And, so there's some people that, just weren't able to cut us. Some people had to withdraw for family reasons, personal reasons. But the majority of our students finished.
Yeah. So the first class was 20 people. Yeah, so far about a fourth of them have job offers. Average salary is right around 85K. And that's all in really low cost of living areas. So that's Utah, Ohio, Michigan. That's not San Francisco salaries. Let's see. People do normally quit their jobs to attend, or they have evening jobs. You can't really do an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Program with a job during those hours. Let's see. Large the class. The first class was 20 people. If you withdraw early, if you draw in the first month, there's no payment. If you withdraw after the third month, you owe the full amount. We have had students, a lot of students can get jobs after 3 months. That's kind of as long as a normal code boot camp. It's not as good of a job as you would get if you waited through the whole program and actually graduated, but we don't want people leaving on us early just because they're getting job offers and not paying. If you do leave in the first month, you don't owe anything. And none of the students that dropped out in CS in our first class paid anything. So we're not trying to rake people over the coals, but we do want you to commit if you're interested. Let's see. Do we do Angular? We don't really get into Angular. That's kind of on the way out if you're paying attention to the JavaScript world. We do a lot of React Native, Redux, and our students are getting jobs really quickly based on React. So yeah, the average salary right now is right around 85K in low cost of living areas. It'll go up quite a bit for the people that are in San Francisco or New York. But yeah.
This is the higher cost of living. But yeah. And we'll be publishing objective hiring data once the kind of a 3-month window has passed after graduation, just because a lot of our first class is still entering their their search period. So is it 17% pre-tax or post-tax salary? That's pre-tax gross annual income.
How far out is accreditation? So accreditation for a 6-month program isn't really a thing that exists unless you want to kind of piggyback on somebody else's accreditation, or there are accreditations that are technically not real accreditations that people call accreditation. But yeah, so we're working on it, but plans for accreditation are more based on a longer program. It's really difficult to get a 6-month and almost impossible to get a 6-month program accredited. So we guarantee that by means of our payment instead of by getting accreditation. We have a list of 75 hiring partners. I'll share what I can. There's some that want to remain anonymous, but they include PayPal and Slack and the US Air Force and IBM and Sling TV and a lot of other Eventbrite, a lot of very legitimate companies. Has anyone gotten job offers in the Bay Area? No one's gotten a job offer in the Bay Area yet. No one's been looking in the Bay Area yet. So we'll let you know. Are people expected to have prior coding experience beyond what's taught in this mini course? Nope. You can start in this mini course. We do have people that come in with significant coding experience. We usually find that everybody is still getting rocked after about the first couple weeks. So yeah, let's see.
Someone asked about if you have a BS, a bachelor's of science, if you majored in computer science. So we've actually had a lot of people come through with computer science degrees that they wanted to get more relevant skills, or they just were having trouble looking for a job and they wanted to get up to date with web technology. So we've had a lot of students come through and they do really, really well. Yeah, so if you have a degree in science, even if it's not computer science, that leads into this very, very well. Especially if you have something with like a math heavy background, or not to say that you need to have math to do what we're doing. It's just math trains you in the type of logic that it's the way you have to think with programming. So most people that come into our course haven't done a lot of math, and they do great. But if you have done a lot of math, it kind of gives you a little bit of a bonus. Like you're able to reason about programming and computers a little bit. It comes a little bit more naturally.
Yeah, it looks like Braden asked, is it necessary to attend the courses live? Yes. So the really important part of the course isn't the lecture. The lecture, we do record those, we do make those available inside or outside of class, but we do expect people to attend live for a few reasons. First is, unlike this, it's much smaller class, so it's much more interactive and multi-way instead of, us talking to you and you slacking back. It's actually a discussion. And second, the most important part that happens in the course isn't actually the lectures. The lectures are great, but it's working along with everybody else, having instructors review your code. And that just doesn't really happen unless everybody's there working together.
Yeah. So I see someone asked about, does the main course focus on solid JS fundamentals before you break off into frameworks? Yes. So we dive into, advanced JavaScript. So we cover, the different like functional programming principles. We cover, stuff like recursion and closure and, constructors and the this keyword, all those different, more advanced concepts. We cover that very much in depth. We cover data structures and common algorithms. We do that in JavaScript. And so coming out of our basic, like just our 2 weeks of intense JavaScript study, I mean, already the stuff that we've equipped there would put people in the higher percentages of software engineers out there for your JavaScript understanding. So we go into it pretty deep before we dive into frameworks and libraries and stuff like that. But all real development is done with frameworks and libraries. Companies generally aren't writing stuff that's in vanilla JavaScript. It's very it'll probably be a long time before you'd ever be in a position where you would be writing plain JavaScript for something. Usually you're working with some type of a library or framework, just because that's what programming is. It's you're piggybacking off of coding that other people have done and pulling in open source software and using it. And that's a huge part of learning to be a software engineer.
Yes, it is entirely online. So we have a physical location, but most students never come here and most instructors don't even come here. Everything is live and interactive, but remote. Can you go into the job searching process that's required of students? So we have a career services team. One of the really cool things about having a program that, we don't get paid unless you get a job is we're very much incentivized to help you get that job. We do everything we can from our end. So we have interview practice. We do code challenges every day. We have a team that reviews resumes and LinkedIn and helps you connect as much as we can. That said, no program can get a job for you. At the end of the day, you're interviewing, you need to be submitting applications. We don't have any requirements around where you work or for how long you work. That's all entirely up to you. You will have to, you do have to do work. It's not all us, no matter how much we'd like it to be.
Let me talk on this one.
Yeah.
Someone's asking about our program versus an accredited university program. So compared to a 4-year CS degree, in a 4-year CS degree, you're going to take a lot of generals. You're going to do a lot of, study into math. And you're going to cover a lot of, an extended period of time in more like lower level systems. So you'll start from from the bottom level and work up. So you'll start at like fundamentals and then work towards practical. With us, we start practical and dig deep. And what we find is that by starting with the practical, it's more fun. It's easier to get engaged with. It helps you build a foundation. And then we move into more advanced, lower level concepts further on. It's about 75% of the hours.
And that's if you're saying two outside of class hours for every credit hour. That's not credit hour versus real hour. That's the actual hours that you would spend.
Yeah, if you're looking at the number of hours that the students are probably actually spending, we're probably actually getting more hours in our course. But and so that when we focus on the practical and then teach the fundamentals and the CS fundamentals to put you in a position to be able to reach senior level positions as quickly as possible, and to give you that flexibility to be able to pursue many different career paths. But I think you take 2 students, you put one of them through our 6-month course, and then add on 3.5 years of work experience, and compare that person to someone who's starting a 4-year CS degree at the same time. And I feel pretty confident saying that pretty much every one of the students doing our course will be doing the hiring of the person that's finishing the CS course.
Not to mention they'll be a couple $100,000 ahead cash wise.
Yeah.
So that's really the goal. A lot of code boot camps, they really just barely brush the surface. And people can get jobs because there's such a desperate need for engineers that even if you don't know all this stuff, people want you to know. They can hire you anyway. But we go deep, and we really, we had the advantage of starting with what we think students really need to know. And we're not constrained by how much tuition people are paying up front. We're starting with, we're really starting with what an engineer actually needs to know to get hired and to be not just, get in the door, but to be successful long term, because we're truly invested and our incentives are truly aligned with yours. So it's a pretty unique program in that way.
So Hannah's asking, you're expected to be your computer without any break. So yeah, you are there the full time. You have a lunch break. There are other little breaks, but think of it as like a full-time job for 6 months, and that's about the hours. It's a little bit more than a full-time job would be, but it's about like having a full-time job. You're expected to be there in your seats, for the full work week, and yeah.
Dylan is asking if there are certificates you can put on your resume. Yeah, there are certificates that we give out, but to be totally honest, nobody really cares. Like, at the end of the day, you'll be given a coding challenge and you can pass the coding challenge or you can't. And whether or not you have a certificate that says you know JavaScript, no one cares. They'll give you a code challenge and see if you can actually write JavaScript.
Like if you never went to college, if you're a college dropout, like it really doesn't matter. Like a college degree can help you make it past some like gatekeepers sometimes. It can maybe you'll get more eyes on your resume, but it's a meritocracy. It's very much a meritocracy with computer programming, and what they care most about is, can you actually do it? And if you have a strong portfolio and if you really understand the skills, then maybe it'll be a little bit harder for you to get your first job, but then after that it'll be easy.
Yeah, actually neither Ben nor I have full CS degrees. We both dropped out, and no one cares.
Yep.
Tips for interview. Average age of students in the course. It really varies. I think our oldest student is probably 55. Our youngest student is probably 19. Average is probably right in the mid 20s somewhere, mid to late 20s. But we really don't care about age. And employers don't really either. I mean, people ask us a lot about if there's ageism. If there is, it doesn't matter, because you can still get a job even if you're older. It's just not an issue the way a lot of people expect it to be an issue.
Like sometimes it can make it like a little bit harder, but it doesn't make it like impossible. It's just, you just have to work at it.
Any future plans to offer part-time classes of the same 6-month course? Yeah, we do have a part-time class. We teach it twice a year, and it lasts a year. You want to be sure of with that part-time course is that you're really, really dedicated, because 4 nights a week plus a Saturday for a year is a really long time. So the next one starts in July. You're welcome to apply for that. Of course, it won't start for another 5 months, but we can send you a link to that as well. Since I have a lot of experience in IT operations, do you think I could get a DevOps position after the 6-month course? I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
You'd probably be better off just jumping right to a senior developer role that also does DevOps. That's being kind of wrapped into a lot of developers day to day now, especially with AWS. That's just part of life. That's probably what I'd recommend anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, we cover a lot of DevOps stuff as well. Just automating that pipeline and deployment, all of that stuff.
Even a little containerization, some Docker stuff, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I'm a college student. I've learned C++ and assembly, but have zero experience with Git. That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot. Like people coming out of college that, they kind of miss. I guess you're currently in college, but yeah, a lot of those things are head scratchingly absent from.
Yeah, you will absolutely use Git in the industry.
Yeah.
Algorithms won't require calculus. No, algorithms aren't really calculus driven. They're computer science driven. Data structures and algorithms, you shouldn't need higher math for necessarily.
No. Yeah, and it's kind of like, I mean, a lot of the programming from math fundamentals, but it's it's like you're kind of starting from scratch and learning to think about it in a different way. And so, yeah, so you won't need to have like math, and like you'll kind of indirectly be using some of those principles, but it's not like we start with a math equation and then show it in terms of code. We do a little bit of that with complexity analysis, and we talk a little bit about that, but that's we explain it in depth, and so it's so you wouldn't be hindered by
you don't need to take
calculus.
You don't need to take calculus before you come to Lambda School by any means.
Yeah, we review any math concepts that are required as we get to them.
Do you offer job search assistance or technical interview prep? Yes, we have an entire team. We call it the career services team. They are dedicated to specifically that. Someone else is asking if we're going to offer courses outside of the US. Yeah, we're working on that. We really have a lot to go to cover the US market right now. We have, I mean, if I could show you guys my inbox, probably a dozen emails a day from people of different countries asking if we can bring it to India, to South Africa, to Europe. So we're working on that. There's a lot of infrastructure, especially around income share agreements and how we look at what people are getting paid, that we're not sure where it exists or how it exists. So, you know, to verify your income, this is the way we don't have to require you to work anywhere specifically. We actually just get a copy of your tax returns. So we can look at those. If you have a spouse, we can eliminate, you know, what your spouse makes, and we can just see what your income was. And it's really, really simple. And the income share agreement is based on that. I'm brand new to coding. Would the program be right for me? Yeah, you wouldn't be alone. Definitely do the mini boot camp. You'll need that knowledge before you begin. But yeah. All right.
It sounds like for how to set themselves apart.
Yes. So the main thing I would say for setting yourself apart in the Lambda School application process is using the link that I dropped that shows you're doing the mini bootcamp. So the most important thing for us is we want people that want to learn about programming for the sake of learning programming. So if your only goal is to get a job and programming is just a means to that end, you probably run into some difficult times. But if you just want to learn, that means a lot for us. So I'll drop a link again when I'm done in the general channel that you can use to apply directly with that link. What that link does is it expedites you through our interview process. So you'll probably get an interview in the next couple days, even though our interviews, I think, were backed up through like February. But we reserve some spots specifically for mini bootcamp students because we know that you guys that are coming to learn programming of your own accord are the people that we really want in the program. So, you know, you'll still have to complete all of the mini bootcamp, all the pre-course work. But, you know, we'd like to get to know you in an informational setting as soon as we can and get to the point where we can watch you learn and grow. And we can learn from that.
Yeah. Make sure. Make sure if you do end up applying, make sure that you put some information on there about just saying that you did do the mini boot camp, because we look at that and then you'll be expedited through the application process, just because, this is covering all the stuff anyway that you need to know to be successful in our course.
Let's see.
There's a lot of questions, so apologies if we missed some. And right now, of course, is doing a little Q&A session about our course.
I recently completed an 8-week course through Code Academy on Intro to JS. Yeah, that's an okay one. I'm completing stuff through Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp is pretty good. I still feel very new to JS, though. Are there any other resources available you'd recommend? Udemy has some good ones. The Udacity Intro to JS course is pretty good. Yeah,
if you're wanting to dive into like fundamentals to get really good at it, go to the Mozilla Developer Network, MDN. Everything's written very, very clearly, very succinctly. They have great examples, best guide for JavaScript. And if you can really get in there and master everything that's in there, you would be at a very elite level of JavaScript. There's also another thing called Eloquent JavaScript that you can search for. That's another online book that's free and available. It has a lot of great resources about it. So Eloquent JavaScript, and then MDN. Just looking at the tutorials on MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. MDN is the abbreviation. But yeah, go check that out. Those are amazing.
What are your classes like from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Do you just sit and watch? Heavens no.
Yeah.
That would be the worst and least effective class ever. So you start out with a code challenge, and so you start out with a code challenge that's similar to a question that you would get in a job interview. And we work through the code challenge, and then we do a code challenge solution. And then depending on the day, we'll either have a lecture, or you'll be working on a project in pairs, or you'll have code reviews. Most of the rest of the time is broken up between introducing a new topic, going over a new topic, and then writing a lot of code is what it really is. Writing a lot of code and reviewing a lot of code.
Yeah, we also have like guest speakers that'll come too. So like today we had a guy who's a professor at UC Irvine and teaches machine learning and artificial intelligence there. And he came and talked about that. And yeah, we've had a lot of really good guest speakers that have come in. So we'll do that about once a week. We'll have a guest speaker come in.
All right. I'm older. If I get accepted, will it be worth my while? Who hires older workers in this field? Everybody. Again, like we've said, some people have asked about if ageism is a problem. I don't think so, other than in like San Francisco startups where they expect you to work for 80 hours and get paid next to nothing, which is probably not the job you want anyway. That's harder for practical reasons, but I don't really know of anybody that's actively ageist. And maybe there are companies that I don't know about. It doesn't matter, because our older students get jobs all the time. I love working with older people. So I don't think there's any problem. Have you had an experience with graduates telecommuting to work after? Generally speaking, telecommuting for the first year or two of an engineering career is something I would actually recommend against. Not because, you can find those jobs. They're harder to get, actually a lot harder to get. But for some reason, companies pay more attention to you in your first year if you're in the office. And that year is really critical to building the next step of your career. So if it were me, I would highly recommend getting into an office, even if it's for a year or two, and then going remote is much easier. Ben worked remote for a while and lived up in the mountains and made San Francisco salary, and it's great. But yeah. Let's see. So our median range of salary in low cost of living areas, median salary is right around 85K. We haven't had very many people get jobs in high cost of living areas yet. My guess is it'll be around 110, 120. If you're looking at San Francisco, maybe 130. But yeah, we will be submitting our report to CIRR, the CIRR. Yeah, we just need more data before we can submit it there. Yep. Was the logo designer a Half-Life fan? The logo designer was me. We are working on a new logo with the famous Mackie Saturday, who designed the Instagram and Oculus logos. But yeah, I cannot wait for people to stop asking if we are related in some way to Half-Life.
Every one of our Facebook ads, like har har har, has like 3 or 4 like. Those are usually the first comments, like some crack about Half-Life.
I think we already talked about remote work. How involved are the assignments and the projects? You'll be spending all day on them, really.
And the way we do it too is we have people come in with a pretty broad skill set, and so, or like some people are more advanced, like maybe they have a CS degree, maybe they've even worked as a software engineer, and they're wanting to update their skills. Barely knew how to turn the computer on before they started. So it's so pretty wide. Anyway, pretty big spread there. So what we do is the assignments are there's a lot of extra credit. So there's enough for the most advanced students to have enough to chew on for the entire period, the 2-day period that we go over this assignment. But then there's, the fundamentals there that we focus on with, with everyone that we're trying to get them to. So, if you're a more advanced student and you blow through everything, we'll always have more for you to work on, because we want you to clear the bar, the standard is, by as wide a margin as possible. But we, work with everyone. And so, there's a little bit of adjustment that we have to make there, because it is unique compared to, like a traditional school where they know everyone's kind of starting at the same level. So that's what the pre-course work is for. It's to make sure everyone is at least above a certain bar, so we can start fast and start, hit the ground running.
I take it we'll be building up a repository portfolio that we can share after graduation. Yes, absolutely. If we didn't have that, then we would be in a really bad spot.
You're working on group projects with people, learning how to work and collaborate in teams, doing lots of pair programming. You'll be working on some different solo projects, and then lots of different homework assignments that you'll be doing during class. So lots and lots of code.
Will you have enough knowledge to develop an app upon graduating your program? Yes. You could take an app and build server and database and web and build it on mobile clients for iOS and Android. You'll be able to do all that. Easily.
So I've been doing some interview prep. So we have some students that are going through the interview process with Uber right now. We don't know if they'll get a job, but I've been reviewing them, and one of them built like 4 or 5 simple mobile apps over the weekend. Just like simple little, like one was a to-do list and, flashcards and stuff like that. But yeah, you will, be able to do all that stuff.
You'll be comfortable on all platforms. You'll be familiar with all areas of the stack. You'll use multiple programming languages. We use JavaScript as our daily driver, but you'll play with C a lot, which is a lower level language that's a lot harder to write. You'll have to deal with memory management and pointers and stuff that most code boot camps don't even touch, but is actually really, really important to be a good software engineer. We play with Python a little bit. We may or may not brush on Go, depending on which class you're in. But you'll be well prepared.
Someone's asking about C# and .NET. We use Node for the backend. And so you'll understand the fundamentals of RESTful API development and database administration and all that. And so you'd be able to transfer the fundamentals over to C#, and you'll learn C as well. So you'll be familiar with the statically typed language and or strictly typed language and all of that stuff. But we do not directly teach C# and .NET. There's a lot of different backend configurations, and we focus on Node. And we teach relational and non-relational databases as well.
Is it possible to attend college and do this at the same time? That would be rough. If you're doing that, you'd better be doing like 1 or 2 classes max in the evenings. I would not necessarily recommend it. That's open for February. Yes, I believe we have a couple spots open. If you want to attend in February, you should apply like tonight and have your interview soon and finish all of the mini bootcamp stuff. You should probably apply using the link that I dropped for the mini bootcamp.
And just let us know that you're currently working through the mini bootcamp, and then contingent upon you finishing it. We can
accept or deny. And then if you don't finish, then we'd have to bump you back or figure something else out. Do current students of university have less of a priority in the acceptance process due to time constraints? What we're really looking for is somebody that can attend 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. So if you can't do that, you probably would not be accepted. We do have a lot of students that, quite a few students actually that stop or put a pause on college while they finish Lambda school. It just so happens that a lot of them get jobs afterwards and don't end up going back to college or do classes at night while they finish their degree and get paid. So yeah. There are no books or materials to buy, to answer the next question.
Yeah, you need to have a computer and a space to work from.
We talked about the part-time program already. Is there a particular concentration of language the student comes away with? We focus most on JavaScript because that's the language that you can use on the front end and the back end. by far the most widely used programming language overall. But you'll also play with some other languages. And most importantly, like the thing that beginning programmers don't understand as well is that if you can write code in one language, it's really not that hard to transfer that knowledge into other languages. It's kind of maybe Spanish to Portuguese level of difficulty, but like
not even that even. Yeah.
If you learn to write code, you can code in all sorts of languages.
Like English to Pig Latin, kind of. I mean, it's pretty. The fundamentals are very much the same. Like a for loop, like there's loops in every language. There's if statements in every language. There's variables in every language, and there's little variations in like the data structures, like with arrays and stuff like that. That gets a little different, but the fundamentals are the same. And that's why we do C and JavaScript, because they're on like kind of opposite ends of like the abstraction hierarchy. Like C is about as low as you can go, practically speaking. Then JavaScript is one of the higher languages, and so you're able to kind of see across that whole level. And all the other languages you hear about, Python and Ruby and Go and whatever, Java, those all fall somewhere in between those two, generally speaking.
And we'll have students hired to write Ruby, even if they've never written Ruby before. I know that sounds crazy if you've never like programmed, but it's really just not a big deal.
I guess some people like right now heavily being considered for like a job using Elixir, which is a functional programming language that they haven't directly touched yet. But so it's and companies recognize this. Like companies, they realize that most of the people they hire are not going to be a 100% match for their tech stack. And so part of it is we teach you how to learn, and you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to learn and jump in and do different things. And companies recognize that. So if you're an experienced software engineer coming in, they realize that they're going to have to do some training for you and ramp your skills up in a certain area, just because they're not going to find somebody. They're not going to find very many job applicants who have an exact match skill set wise.
Average age, I think we've talked about that. If you've already applied, go ahead and DM me, and I will set you up with an expedited interview. If you're if you're still around and you're listening to this, job search requirements. You can hold out for the ideal job. We don't force you to take any job. The guarantee isn't contingent upon anything really. You can do whatever you like. Do we cover solid principles, ORM, MVC, dependency injection? Yep, we do. If I apply, would the school be able to vouch for me? Yeah, if you're a graduate, we tell everybody you're a graduate. Let's see.
Yeah, someone's asking search requirements for new grads. I mean, it's it's their career. Like, do what you want, but we'll be there counseling you and helping you. And, like our class that graduated, like I spent a lot of time today, like reviewing stuff with them, prepping them for interviews. Like they've been messaging me when they get interviews set up, and then I've been reviewing things with them, helping them go over the requirements for that specific company, so that they're most prepared for it. And, so we do a lot of hands-on stuff to make sure they're prepared. But yeah, they can hold out for their ideal job, and it depends. Some people, they really want to do front end. Some people really want to do back end, and then you'll have a sense for that as you work through the course. And for those of you that don't even know what the difference is between front end and back end, like, don't even worry. Like, we go over that quite a bit in depth later on. So
if I'm not able to start until May or June, should I still use that link to apply? Yeah, if you're going to use that link to apply, then that just lets us know that you're in the mini boot camp and you're more legit. So yeah, I would still use that link. Your interview might be scheduled a little bit later, because if there's somebody that wants to start in February, we need to get cracking. And I'm sure there are, but yeah. Is there much pair programming? Yes, you'll pair program pretty much every day. And there are a lot of different ways to pair program remotely. It's not an issue. Should you apply after the mini boot camp is completed? If you're interested, you should apply literally right now. It takes 5 minutes. It's not a very in-depth. It's not a very hard application, and you should get on our radar sooner rather than later. Will the mini bootcamp be beneficial even though you can't quit your job and attend the full-time bootcamp? I imagine the vast majority of people won't be able to. And that's not the only reason we have this, that it's helpful. But really, we just want people to be able to learn and grow. What are the differences between the two boot camps? So the mini boot camp basically prepares you for the full thing, learn and go on your way. But the full boot camp is 6 months long, full time, versus the mini boot camp, which is 2 weeks long, part time. And then
coming out of the part-time, like the mini boot camp that we're doing right now, like you would have the skills necessary to then go and learn, like if you wanted to do some self-learning on something like React, to build more complex web pages, or build simple web pages by yourself. Like you would have the foundation to be able to go and continue your learning to do those things. So it kind of gets you into a good like beginner spot.
What time zone is the main course taught from? We're in California, in Silicon Valley. So we teach from Pacific time zone, but we have students all over the place, a lot in Eastern, a lot in Central and Mountain. And we get really good at converting time zones. So I say 6 p.m. Pacific, and I expect everybody to instantly know what that means. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, lots of pair programming. We're like about 10 minutes back as far as the stuff we're answering, so some of it's already been addressed.
Is there a more detailed course outline? I will post the full syllabus. The interview process is more informational. We're much more interested in getting to know you, getting to know if you work hard, if you're dedicated. And then most of what we need to see from a programming perspective is done during the mini boot camp. So if you can make it through the mini boot camp, which is not necessarily easy, then we want to work with you. The next full-time boot camp after February, we start one every month, the first Monday of every month. So February, March, April.
So 12 classes a year.
What kind of jobs are available after the program? Is it pretty much strictly web development? No, it's all over the place. Web development, software engineering, anything that you would get a CS degree. You don't have to be creative at all. It's really
often in most jobs, it's very much the designers will design like the page, what it's supposed to look like, or the application, what it's supposed to look like, if that's you. For the types of jobs, we have the two people that are going through the interview process with Uber right now. They're doing it. Doing it for it's a mobile role, so it's for mobile development. So we'd be working on iOS and Android apps. So it's very different. Or maybe like some people do more back-end roles with databases and stuff like that. Most companies, they're one of their major economic drivers is the effectiveness of their web application. So there's tons of jobs out there for people looking to work on websites, web applications, or servers, like database that's the back end of the website. There's tons and tons of jobs in that area. So that's where most of the graduates will be. And that's why the focus of our course is more on application development. So mobile apps, websites, and then servers, because that's where most of the jobs are. But we give you the fundamentals so you'll be able to branch out and go different directions with it.
There's a part-time course that's available. It's still kind of in experimental phase because it's such a hard commitment for people to make, a year of nights and weekends. So we just started our first one. The next one's going to be in July. You're welcome to apply now. There are very, very limited spots for that. So if it's at all possible, we recommend doing full-time. But yeah, do all employers in this field enforce drug screenings? I don't know. Probably not.
Not if you're in California or Washington.
That is, I know for a fact that I have friends that do drugs and that have jobs. I don't know if they stopped for a while. We have a lot of people that attend from home with a family. So you'll have to mute yourself a lot, but that's totally fine. If you want to expedite your interview, send me a message or Ben, and we will get that done. How does the 17% of salary work? Is it a wage garnishment that comes out automatically? So that's something that you're actually required to pay on your own. So we see your tax returns. We see how much you're making. We usually have you give us view access to your bank account so we can see how much money's coming in and see when you're getting paid. And it depends on the job. So you'll just tell us how much you're making. And then we have an annual reconciliation based on your tax forms. So it's a very unique way to do it. It's not a debt. There's no interest. There's no, if you lose a job, it just stops. It's not, so it's not a debt instrument. It's actually equity. So we're actually literally investing in you as a student and hoping that our investment pans out. Otherwise, we make nothing. So it's very unique.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a debt, and like there's no interest on it, but if you didn't pay, like it goes against your credit, and we have the same recourse options as like a loan provider, but it's the intent of this is to make it as flexible and as forgiving as possible, and as far away from a standard student loan as possible. Because a student loan, you can't get out of it with bankruptcy. It's interest, it gets saddled on, and it is there, and you are stuck with it. Even if your job, you can't afford to pay it back. So we're trying to get away from that and alleviate the student loan crisis.
So you only pay us if you have a job and you're making good money, and that's a huge difference. Let's see. Do we offer any scholarships? I mean, our scholarships are that it's free until you get a job. So we're spending millions of dollars on instructors right now.
Millions of dollars, yeah.
To provide it for free, and you only pay back after you have a good job. So that's as close to a scholarship as we can possibly get.
DM me or Austin.
So they would just refer you to us.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is this workable for people in the software industry that want to learn new skills? Yeah, we have a lot of people.
We had a guy with a PhD in computer science go through one of our courses.
And the funny thing is he increased his salary by like 40%. So he's paying us 17% for 2 years, but he keeps that salary increase forever. Are there jobs in the Valley? Yeah, we have more connections in the Valley than anywhere else. Is Bitcoin accepted? Yes, we do accept Bitcoin for all of you crypto millionaires. When you get a job, you make monthly payments or annual payments? You make monthly payments. And the mini bootcamp will always be available. These links will always be available. And I will go back to my computer and post a link to both the full-time and the part-time applications right now. Feel free to reach out to me or Ben if there are any other questions.
And again, we're looking in the questions channel right now. So if there's anyone that missed those announcements from earlier.
We will go back and answer all the questions for the people that are apparently not paying attention. So thanks, guys. We'll see you around. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time.
Yep. And you can always, so same time tomorrow, another YouTube live stream. The cool thing about YouTube is you can go back and rewatch it, rewind it. This will just be held as a recording at this URL, so you can come back and view it there as well. Fun stuff. Glad to have you guys. So it was fun tonight to go over Git and the basics of version control, as well as doing an info session about our course. And then tomorrow we'll be diving into more of the JavaScript stuff. And this first night is very much more just kind of like orientation, getting into, getting used to the system, getting your environment ready. And then, and then we'll be going forward full speed tomorrow. So let us know if you have any questions, and thanks so much for being here. We're excited to do this. Thanks, guys. Good night.